to Impact. This is like our 20th show. I'm so excited about this one. Larry Armstrong is not just a great personal friend of mine, but he's been such a mentor to me through the growth of the IMA, our business, me being a father, a husband. There's so many integrated pieces that this man right here has helped me along the way. I've been so excited to interview him. I wanted it to be at the right time. Larry's been working on this magnificent piece of architecture behind me, and I thought this would be the ultimate place to do our interview, and I'm so excited to have you on my show. I told you it's going to kick ass. This interview is going to be epic. You have such a cool background, Larry. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got, from Ohio to California? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Oh, all right. Well, I grew up in Northeast Ohio near Cleveland, and Midwest boy. Went to Kent State University for my architecture degree, and great architecture school back there. And then 1981, after graduation and after I got married to Sandy, we hit a recession in the Midwest, and we decided to move to California. So we drove across the country in about 5 days in our old car, and with about $500 in our pocket, and slept on our friend's floor. He had a studio apartment, and we slept on his floor for 2 weeks in sleeping bags and looked for jobs. And Sandy got a job, and then I got a job and got an apartment, and kind of here we are.
Awesome. So humble beginnings, Midwest boy.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you're a pretty cool cat. I've known this guy for over 10 years now. I've never seen you once get upset. How do you like keep it cool like that? Is that a Midwestern value that you just stay calm? Because I think that is such a key part of leadership. If leaders are reacting and getting emotional, then that could actually create a negative impulse, right, among the subordinates that are working with you. Tell me a little bit about where that calm and cool collective Larry comes from.
I think it's learned a little bit. I think that I've certainly made my share of mistakes as I grew into leadership of my company. And, I think after a while you've kind of seen everything kind of thing. And I think you learn to roll with it, learn to deal with it, maybe anticipate issues as they come up. Right. And try to strategize around them. And that's kind of what I spend my time doing, sort of strategizing and looking to the future rather than reacting so much.
So before we get into your home, which I'm so excited to share with our audience, is a little bit of some of the art pieces that have inspired you. And everything at this property, Larry's literally created with his hands. The model of this home, the architecture, every detail has been thought through, and you can see the level of quality. I've been through your property several times, and every time I learn something new. And around that, you're not just a great executive leader, but you're a great thought leader. As an artist, as a businessman, as a father, as a husband, you're a great thought leader, Larry. Tell us a little bit about layers and how layers have inspired you, because you taught me about layers, and I can't wait to you teach our audience about layers, because that really changes your perspective on things.
I don't know when I came up with this as a concept. It's not, unique to me, but I tend to focus on the layers. I've designed this whole house over the last 20 years on the concept of layers. And so this thing's on 2 shifted grids, and all the spaces are layered in 3 dimension, as well as all the exterior space. And my art is a ongoing study of layers as well. And the layers can be very visual and obvious and physical, but they can also be very conceptual. Like right now, there's various layers of sound in this environment right now. Right. You can hear the freeway over here. You can hear birds over here. You and I talking. Right. He just scuffed his foot on the driveway. Right. And you can
you hear all those layers, right? Yeah.
There's layers with the wind and the atmosphere here with the sun. Right. With our emotions, dealing with being on camera right now and talking back and forth. Sure. In the environment. So you can draw inspiration. I draw inspiration from these ideas. Right. In my art, in my architecture, in leadership, in pretty much everything, I kind of think about it in that way.
And I love it because we did a great event here, if you recall, a couple years ago with our IEC group here in Orange County. Everyone walked away seeing the world differently after you gave us your thought leadership piece on layers. And as a successful businessman, let's just say, you know, along the journey of life, right, comes challenges. And layers to me kind of remind me of those building blocks of a successful leader, be it education, family, all the different things that make Larry who Larry is, right? And you've got sort of layers, so if one thing isn't going so well, you have these other things that come in. I've walked the pier here in San Clemente regularly, and every time I walk that pier, I see in layers a different thing. And it's all because of what you did, and I hope our audience takes some perspective on the things that they look at every day, the things that they hear, and to break them down into layers and to observe them, because there's so much more you learn about your daily life just by thinking of it in layers. So that's totally awesome. Well, I'm excited to get in your home and see some of the art pieces. And before we do that, can you tell us a little bit about your study abroad? I believe it was in Florence, Italy, that helped create the fundamental foundations of a lot of the artwork that you're going to share with us today.
Yeah, so well, I was lucky enough to study in Florence, Italy when I was in college, and Kent State has a great study abroad program and a campus, a small presence in Florence, Italy. And so we spent a semester there, and you know, when you're a kid from the Midwest and you know, you've traveled a little bit but not outside the US, you go to a country, you know, in Europe, and it just changes your whole life. You know, it changes your perspective. And learning about the Renaissance and what happened in Florence in terms of art and architecture and music and government, it was really a fascinating experience and really changed the way I think about everything, really.
I mean, you're basically like the modern Renaissance man. I know the Associated Press had an article on you a few years ago that got covered across the nation. Can you talk a little bit about like Michelangelo's David and some of the foundational elements of Renaissance and how you take that into your daily life?
I draw a lot, let's say that, from the Renaissance masters. Michelangelo for sure, Leonardo da Vinci, I talk about a lot because I think he was the ultimate in sort of the whole brain thinking. You know, most people think of him as an artist, but he was also like a military engineer, you know, and an architect. And he was also in great shape and took care of himself and studied the human physique, you know, like no one had before him. And so I really like that. I think an architect by nature has to have whole brain thinking, and I really like that. You know, using your creativity, but also your technical skill, your people skills, you know, compassion, but logical thought. And those all go, and you know, to me, it's a series of layers, right?
Absolutely.
And it goes into making up the human experience.
Right, so that's something that our audience should think about. Whole brain thinking, that's the first time I've ever heard of that. I think my wife sometimes says I have half brain thinking. Whole brain thinking is the real deal, because all of us have a mechanical, mathematical brain as well as an artistic, creative brain. And that whole brain coming at an issue or a challenge or some adversity that may be going on will give you some breakthroughs, and that's a really good takeaway. So tell us a little bit about this beautiful home that you designed. I live next door to Larry, so I've been watching this home get bigger and wider. And tell me a little about your inspiration about this house as we enter our tour.
Obviously, it's a modern design and influenced by masters such as Le Corbusier and Richard Meier and those types. It's, like I said before, it's laid out on this site in two shifted grids that intersect and result in the different angles you see. It's a work in progress that's been going on for 20 years. We built the main house and moved in 20 years ago. Then we did a couple of additions of my studio and the retreat in the front. And then we just went through a major renovation where we added this deck and we revamped the interior finishes and the technology in the house. So it's a dream come true for an architect to be able to design his own house, but what you find out is you're never done.
Right, absolutely.
You're always tinkering with it.
Right,
So
and there's a lot of layers here. So join us as we enter this property. I'm excited to take it to the next step. All right, welcome back. So excited to be inside your home. It seems like we're like at the apex where everything is around us. Tell us a little bit about the art here and some of the installations. My friend right over here. Tell me about this piece first.
Oh, well, this is a greeter, and it's by a Laguna Beach artist, and we have a couple of them in the house by the entry doors.
Right.
Just meant to welcome people into the space.
Now, tell me about the greeter. I mean, what's the cultural heritage? Is it a him or her?
It could be either.
See, we don't ever prepare for this show, so I'm putting him on the spot. It could be a him or a her. I'm going to go for a her, earrings.
Yeah. We tend to call her a her, but you know, it could be either way.
Very cool. And further, tell me about this beautiful abstract piece, very colorful. In fact, when I drive by your home, I can see it from the street. Tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind that piece.
Yeah, so we're in the living room space, and it's obviously a two-story space, and we have this two-story wall here, which, you know, we contemplated this wall for many, many years after we moved in, and I got to know a few artists from LA that had actually influence over my work. And so we ended up getting to know Chuck Arnaldi, and he also hails from Ohio, by the way. And we commissioned this piece from him for this wall specifically. And so we love it. We love the color. We love the abstract nature of Chuck's work. And
yeah.
So there you go.
And when I think back to layers, I mean, like, your house seems to be all white, and then where you see the pop is the color. Can you tell me a little bit about that inspiration and the justification of that?
That's a good description of why. I mean, I'm really a believer in white, as it's just a very pure color, right? And all other colors just pop against it, you know, so I'm a big believer in it, inside and out, as you can tell.
Right. And I know we're going to be touring your studio in a minute, Larry, but tell me about this piece that's up above. That looks like an abstract piece in layers, something you designed. Can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind that? And I've seen numerous installations. I believe John Wayne Airport in Orange County actually had this on display for a year. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this piece is one of my layered canvases. And so I've got different ways that layers express through my art. This one's an earlier canvas one that we like, so we put it up there. It's called Gust.
So when you design that, do you just literally have canvas on the floor and just take paint, just dump it, and then that's it, you're done? Or is there like a real strategy to these abstract pieces?
These pieces normally start out in my sketchbook.
Right.
And so they're pretty specific. The pieces are arranged given the inspiration that, you know, hit me at the time, which in this case was a windy day. Right. The pieces intersect, and you can sort of see in this case the red paint, which are kind of a shadow, so to speak, which are very orderly and precise. And then the paint that sort of laid down with basically a squeeze bottle is meant to be sort of a anti-statement to the order. You know, it's sort of order and chaos, right? And especially that maybe happens in a windstorm. The frame itself and that black piece is the frame.
Oh,
and the idea being that the art transcends the frame.
Correct.
In a layered way.
Right.
So the frame doesn't contain the piece, it becomes part of the piece, and the piece transcends the frame.
That's awesome.
So a little different idea there.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, for our viewers at home and at work, you know, think about art and how you have that throughout your office or your home. I think it's really important because there's so much storytelling that can come into that. When you have guests and friends come over, it's always a talk piece of where you've traveled, or an artist or a friend or something that you've designed yourself. It doesn't have to be a renowned piece that costs a lot, right? It just has to have some substance and some background to it. And I think that gives a lot of variety to who you are as an individual, be it professional or personal. My mom was an artist, and that's where, you know, I get into advertising and digital marketing, was from her art background. And my mom used to put plaster in Paris on top of acrylic glass, and then she would paint oil on it and put it in enamel. And it was something really different that I never saw any other artist. And we'd have these throughout our house, and she would give it to the coaches of my baseball teams and such. And it's something that all of us have, are these inner artistic talents think about what you can create for your own home or your office, because it really gives variety and it differentiates you. So this is really awesome, Larry. And you know, what I wanted to do is just in this segment of the interview around some of the work that you've done. Beyond art and what passions lie in who you are as an individual from Kent State to Florence, tell us a little bit about your career. You've run an incredible, impressive architecture firm. You're now the chairman. I know you have a very successful CEO, Ken Wink. You held that position for several years. Tell us about that journey when you started as CEO and how you grew that organization into where it's at today.
I love our company. I love what I do. I loved my time as CEO. I still do, actually, and would still be doing it, but it became time, I think, to start transitioning the company. But, you know, I think early on, I was given some great opportunities to grow in my career by our founders, Bill Ware and Bill Malcomb. You know, first of all, they hired me. Second of all, they gave me an opportunity to go open and run an office for our company. And then finally, they gave me the opportunity to be one of two partners to buy them out and take over the firm. So in '92, we bought them out, and my original partner and I, Jim Williams, decided, hey, you know, we've been given a great opportunity. We want to create as many of these types of opportunities as we can for others as they come up and build their careers. And so that idea, and then coupled with the idea that we are, as a firm, commercial real estate experts, and we had clients as they grew taking us to new markets with them. And so those two ideas came together to fuel our growth. And so when we got a chance to go to Northern California and open an office, we asked, you know, Ken to go open that office, just like I had done previously, and helped him grow in his career. And so we've done that multiple times as we've grown into an international company. And it's been a great, really great journey to build this company. And
how many offices and revenue was it when you became CEO, and where's it at today? Just curious.
Yeah, so the first year we took over, we were in a recession, so we had been previously a little bit bigger, but my first year as CEO, we billed just over $3 million.
Okay.
So last year we billed 40x growth.
40x growth. I mean, how does that happen, Larry? What were the variables in that growth? Because we have so many enterprise leaders that watch this show. What are the things that you did in the business that stimulated that growth, but more importantly, the sustainability of that growth?
Well, first of all, we run a very conservative business, and you know, architects aren't always known for their business skills. And I think Bill and Bill taught us that, hey, you know, we're a business. We have to be conduct ourselves as such. But I think the growth, you know, was something we wanted to do to serve our clients. And I thought, you know, it's a relevant thing. It's like we're not trying to be bigger to be bigger. We're trying to serve our clients where they need us to be and give our people an opportunity to grow in their careers. So, you know, it's been, you know, fueled by that. It just kind of came together, and people get excited. They have an opportunity. We serve our clients, and you know, we've expanded into diversifications over the years. We do a lot of work now for the Fortune 500s, which have been amazing. And yeah, it's been.
And you've got such an impressive team. I've been doing the PR for Larry for several years now and got to know a lot of his leaders. Tell us a little bit about how culture works in Ware Malcomb. And I've had the pleasure of having over 1,000 clients in my career. And what rises to the top of Ware Malcomb is the type of culture you guys have. I know Ruth has done such a great job with instilling this sort of culture system that transcends all your offices across the nation. How do you connect that tissue so successfully at your company?
Yeah, so we've worked really hard at staying integrated and one team, so to speak, as a company. That's been a theme of ours from early on when we started building all these offices, so that, you know, an office wouldn't be kind of some outpost somewhere, but it was integrated into the company. And so there are a lot of programs and processes that we have that keep our offices and people engaged as one team. So we spent a lot of time on that. We spent a lot of time on employee issues, you know, just cultural gatherings, you know, mentoring, training, that sort of thing. You know, we have one big holiday party every year that's grown into this giant thing.
Wow.
Where we fly everybody in and their spouse for one big, we're not going to have it this year, obviously. But, which, you know, is a bummer, but that's a big deal for us.
That cultural dynamic.
Yeah, that's a cultural
And let's
thing.
hit on that bummer for us, because all of us are going through this year of 2020. How does a business of your size and scale create that cultural workflow when you can't bring everyone under one tent? It's probably going to be like that for a while. So what is the reinvention of Ware Malcomb around that? Can you give me your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so you know, this has been an interesting year for everybody, obviously. What we discovered was because as a culture we're so connected, when we dispersed even further to working from home, we had 600 people that transitioned in the course of a week, I think, to work from home. They've done an amazing job just staying connected, and I think that it was because the culture was already there. And then during this time we've worked really hard to really do whatever we could to keep people connected.
Super cool.
Because that's a big that's a big thing for us.
Absolutely.
And you know, we need to get back to the office. The offices are open to some limited capacity, which helps now. And we're going to continue to build on that, I hope, as we go forward.
And here's a great contact for any of you that want to talk to Larry about how to reinvent your company or your whole focus on your business. And this year for the IMA has really been around reinvention. I mean, our conference this year was called reInvent. By the way, we won the Guinness World Records. We had 113,000 registrations. It was absolutely epic. And what I'm going to do is transition from where we're at here to this beautiful deck that Larry just built to expand this house even further. And we're going to go do our next segment there. We're going to talk a little bit about adversity, because we know that success and significance doesn't come easy. And I want my audience to know how you dealt with the greatest challenges throughout your life and career in those moments, how you're able to step to the side and overcome challenge. So we're going to take that interview upstairs. This segment, I really want to focus on the challenges through the success journey. And we're all on a journey. We're nowhere near the end. We're just beginning, right? But through your journey, going from Kent State, humble beginnings, landing the CEO job, building this enterprise, tell us about some of the challenges of that. And we all face adversity. We all go through pain on the way to success. Tell me how you got through those moments and any advice you have for young entrepreneurs, people starting a business or people in a business looking to reinvent themselves. Any thoughts there?
We all go to school and we learn a profession, right? In my case, architecture. And so as a designer and an architect, a project manager, you know, you learn your trade and you become proficient at it after a while, hopefully. And then you get promoted. And then all of a sudden you're leading a team of people or managing, and that's a different job that you didn't go to school for, right? So you have to learn how to lead people effectively. And so I made a whole bunch of mistakes, right? I mean, you just do. You don't know the job as well, right? And so, so that's where I made a lot of mistakes. And you learn after a while, you know, some problems that you create. And so that's a big one. I think for anybody building a business, starting a business, a young entrepreneur, that's an important thing to keep your eye on, I think, a little bit. I read a lot of business books, and I would definitely advocate for that. And then, you know, in our particular business, commercial real estate's very cyclical. You know, it's very tied to the economy. When the economy's good, real estate's good. Economy's not good, real estate's not good. So as a firm, you know, we were, you know, a little vulnerable to that, and we would go through sort of, maybe I wouldn't call it quite boom and bust, but you know, it was ups and downs for sure. And you know, one of the worst things is getting smaller, because that way, you know, you have to lose people. Our main asset is people. And so we set out to diversify our company to sort of blunt the effects of recessions, so to speak. And so we carefully have diversified our offerings over the years to make us less vulnerable to recessions. So that was kind of a big one, and one we've worked on every single time during the up times. So when the next downturn came, maybe we didn't sink quite as low. And you know, I guess we're in a recession right now, right? And in that case, we've been very fortunate, and we have not so far, knock on wood, gone down. And so that's been very important, I think. For our company.
And I think, like, as many practicing professionals, especially this year, adversity just comes to all of our plate, right? Whether we're dealing with the things coming from this year with health issues, or a family member, or something happening at our business, or things that are out of our control. In those really dark times throughout your career and your journey, what advice do you have for our audience to kind of get through that moment? Because we know the next day, the next week, the next month, things shift. I mean, you talk about layers. I mean, you may have a pretty crappy layer in that moment, and then all of a sudden this new horizon comes. Any thoughts there?
Oh, lots. So, excuse me. You know, I always have said, since very early on when we first bought the company and we went through a recession and we were trying to buy the company at the same time, you know, you sort of learn everything in a recession. You know, I really believe that. So I really believe when you're having adversity, that's your opportunity to learn. And so you can learn so that you can begin to strategize and plan for proactively, you know, the next thing that might happen. And you can't dream up everything that would ever happen, but I think that, you know, you can learn from every one of your issues that come up, and I think that's an important takeaway, and one we've tried to implement.
Absolutely, and that's one thing my father always told me was, if you fail at something and you learn from that, you've actually succeeded. If you keep failing with the same failure, then you're actually the failure. So keep that in mind. Just take notes of the things that aren't working personally and professionally, and learn from those moments. I've had it, I continue to go through it, and that's what creates, in my opinion, significance. And success is something that can come to people temporarily, but in order to be significant, it's learning from those failures. So I'm going to transition from adversity to flooring. Tell me a little bit about this beautiful deck that you've built, and the backdrop is the beautiful Pacific Ocean. We're here in San Clemente, California, which is my hometown, Larry's hometown. We're neighbors. Tell me a little bit about your vision here with this indoor-outdoor room that we're in.
Well, you know, we live in Southern California. San Clemente, as you know, and I know, is the best climate in the world. So why not take advantage of it, right? So we kind of created this indoor-outdoor space, which is certainly not unique, but it fits this room and this house. And so we extended this deck out so we can enjoy, you know, this amazing view and atmosphere here. And all the layers. Look at all the layers.
I see a lot of layers.
Right?
I see a lot of layers, and, you know, all white, and again, the color pops. And it's fantastic. So I love it. This is it turned out so great, Larry. And like you said, it's a never-ending project, kind of like life, right? Like it's not a never-ending project. We're always learning, we're always expanding, and you've done such a great job with this deck and continued success there. So we're now going to transition to our final spot, which is kind of Larry's creative dungeon, where he's actually in the nitty-gritty of his art. And I'm excited to take you into his studio next. Awesome. So as we round up our interview, I thought I would take our viewers into sort of your playground. I mean, this is an amazing studio, Larry. A lot of your greatest creations are born here. Tell us a little bit about where we're at.
Yeah, so this is my art studio. Upstairs I have a little home office, and it's a separate building from the house, which is kind of cool, across the bridge. And I come down here, this is where I do my art. And mostly it's weekends, and so I love it.
You probably never come in this room like dressed in a suit or nice clothes, right?
Not usually, no.
Do you just dream these things? Because your art, to the buildings that you create, to your home, to all these designs, your sculptures, is it like you are driving and you think of it, or does it come at a certain point? What drives that inspiration, and how and when does that happen? Yeah,
so it's kind of a cool thing. I refer to it as flashes of light.
Flashes of light.
Usually it's when I'm not in the middle of something, right? I'm chilling out, or on vacation or just walking on the beach or hanging out with Sandy on the deck, or sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night with it. And usually that's how it happens.
Absolutely.
And then I'll sketch it.
Right.
You know, I've got a sketchbook and I'll put it in there and, you know, think about it for a while, let it sort of germinate.
Right.
And then I'll just come down here and blow out some pieces.
Together.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, that's usually how it works. It's pretty cool.
And your pieces, they work on canvas to glass to sculptures. Can you tell me the variety and why you don't just stick to one thing? I mean, you're all over the place.
I do. I work in different media. You know, I've done a bunch of pieces digitally on my iPhone with my finger. And then the canvases that you saw, layered canvases. I do these things which are pretty flat, just layered paint, lots of layers of paint on a piece. I've done these glass sculptural pieces, but everything is based on layers and they manifest in different ways. And I always sort of say, I don't want to limit myself on media because the runway on this concept of layers is, you know, is huge, you know, and never ending, and I can always explore it. So I just stay open to whatever form it wants to take.
And just like you work on a lot of different media, you're also one of the most successful multiverse people I've ever met, both as a father, as a husband, as a community leader, a philanthropist, a CEO. Tell me a little bit about the balance of that, because I know, you know, having a family as well as a business, the challenges that come on people that try to do everything. How are you able to create that success globally in your life and not just in one thing?
I've been inspired once again by Leonardo, okay? And early on when I was building, you know, my family, my kids were growing up and the business was growing, I made a concerted effort not to be a workaholic, right? And to learn the skill of delegation and balancing your life and paying attention to your family, which I think is obviously very important. One cannot be at the expense of the other, you know? And so as we became sort of empty nesters and I started to expand into other things in my life, that's the idea, to create, sort of this well-rounded, balanced existence, I guess, lifestyle. So that's it for me.
Yeah, and your awesome son, James, your awesome daughter, Lauren, your wife, Sandy, I know they all play integral in your life. And tell me, just in closing, I know how Sandy is kind of like your co-pilot in so many things you do in your life. Tell me about how that shared balance works so well as you go through the different stages in life. Just any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, obviously she's super awesome, like amazing. I'm super lucky. None of this would have happened without her, right? So that's the truth. I think that it's interesting how you just grow together and grow with each other over the years, and the influence that she's had just on every aspect of my life is you can't even describe it all, you know. And also always so supportive of everything that we either we do together or that I decide to do, whether it's the art or the career or the nonprofit stuff. You know, we're a true team.
Absolutely, and the work that you do here just in Orange County, California, around Orange County United Way and United to End Homelessness. In closing, can you just talk about how philanthropy has been there, part of your journey in life, and what you're doing here around homelessness in Orange County, and what our viewers can learn about getting involved with a nonprofit as they are successful in business?
We have a problem here in Orange County that we can solve. It's far less than some other big cities have, and so we've created this coalition, United to End Homelessness, to end homelessness in Orange County. That's the goal. It's a big goal, but we're bringing innovative, entrepreneurial, business-like ideas into the mix to help, and a great coalition of business leaders, government officials, nonprofits, faith leaders to solve this problem in Orange County and hopefully set an example for other communities.
Awesome.
That's the idea.
Continued success there, and the work that you and Sue Parks do for Orange County is fantastic. Sue Parks being the CEO of Orange County United Way, just awesome work that you're doing in our community. And I just want to present to you one more time Larry Armstrong. So stoked to have this interview, and he's a great resource for the Internet Marketing Association. He's on our board of advisors. He's mentored us through all of our growth. I mean, now we're tens of thousands of members around the world. We just hosted the largest virtual marketing conference, Guinness World Record, and a lot of that inspiration came from your advice, Larry, and I can't thank you enough. As a true friend to me and a friend to the IMA, we're very stoked to have you here today and being part of our 20th Impact Television show. So we'll be back to you, and I thank you for joining us today.